How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. I have been asked to react to this Chris Ding say some publishers are questioning their support for Xbox consoles. Now, this is a kind of reaction video. I'm doing it in this old format. I think these are better suited for a reaction video, so instead of just having me just sitting there in the corner, I think this is better suited. But do let me know in the comment section below if you prefer the old system, having this full screen and then just me being in the corner, or if you are okay with this. But with that said, let's go through this and see exactly what's being said, because apparently this is huge, and apparently from what I've been told, what I've been saying is starting to materialize, and that's that's my worst fear, right? So let's see what's going on.
Maybe. I mean, obviously we've got, so the PS5 Pro is expected this year. We expected an Xbox Series XS mid-gen refresh this year, so there'll be some new hardware in the market. New hardware usually gives a bit of a boost, but
well, it's interesting with Xbox because that's the other thing I heard. I heard it from a very prominent company and one not so prominent. Was Xbox's performance in Europe is just flatlining, and you can follow our monthly coverage in the games market. You can see that Xbox sales are falling, and it's been falling. It fell all throughout last year, and it's falling even harder this year. The phrase one major company who released a big game last year said, "I don't know why we bothered supporting it."
Now, this is a really, really big deal, right? Because I've been saying for a long time now that console sales matter, and third-party companies are going to look at console sales, and console sales are a really big, it's like the key factor. Capcom or whoever he's referring to doesn't care how many games they push to PC, because that's a different market. That's not Xbox. They don't care what's going on Game Pass. They don't care what goes to the cloud. What they care is how many Xboxes they are selling. Right? That is the key. They don't care how many people have downloaded PC Game Pass or how many subscriptions for Game Pass they have. What they care about is how many consoles have they sold, because that determines how many games they potentially can sell. And that's the key thing here. So for all those people saying that console sales don't matter, they actually do, and they matter more than you actually think. Now, Microsoft is clearly going in a direction where they want to eventually make Game Pass the platform. But the reality is they're not there yet. And making that leap now is stupid. It's just not right. But, that's not to say it's all doom and gloom. 2024 is a big year, but they do need to advertise in Europe. I'm in the UK, and I can tell you I don't see any Xbox advertising. None whatsoever. There's just no Xbox advertising here in the UK. And if there is, it's definitely happening outside of anywhere that I can see. And that's a problem, because anyone I ask in the UK, like people I know, don't see Xbox adverts. They see plenty of PlayStation and Nintendo, but they never see Xbox. And that's a problem, because if there's no advertising, there's no awareness. If there's no awareness, your console disappears. And console sales are important because third-party publishers decide whether they're going to release their games on your platform or not based on this. And if they're now questioning, why do I bother? That's only going to get worse. So this is Microsoft's first wake-up call, and I'm hoping they see this content or this thing that's, this video that's going around, or maybe even they'll see mine, who knows. But the reality is this is the point where it actually matters, and they need to now take note of this and do something about it, because their complete non-existence in Europe is now becoming a problem. It has been a problem for a while, but now if publishers are saying, why do I bother? That's a really big statement. Of course, this is all coming from Chris Dring, and, I'm not going to take his word gospel for it, but I don't see why he should be lying either. And considering I've been saying this for quite some time now, that I've been badgering on about this, that this is what could happen eventually, it kind of, goes hand in hand.
Wow. And it's we've already got. We mentioned on a previous podcast we'd heard that retailers in Europe were considering or had already been cutting back their Xbox stock on their shelves and whether that, hardware games, that kind of thing. And now you've got publishers, third-party publishers going, you know, this is we're putting a lot of effort trying to create a Series S version and an X version of a game, when, to be honest with you, for us the market is PC and PS5.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the key there. Right now, because of Sony's massive influence, and with Microsoft already releasing games on Xbox, the notion now, the belief is now, even though it may never come to materialize, the belief now is that the whole catalogue, the whole slate will eventually go over. I don't believe that for a second until once the consoles disappear, it won't matter anyway. But the reality is, that's now the momentum, that's the mentality that's going around everywhere. And again, this is all Microsoft's own doing. And this is worrisome, right? If this is true, this is worrisome. And like I said, this doesn't paint a good picture, but it's also something that I've been saying for a long time. Now, we've been talking about how in podcasts, how Xbox games are coming off the shelves, and that's primarily because gamers are just going to Game Pass. They're not buying as much as they used to. Some people are going to say they've got 1 million games. Okay, but you're an outlier. That's just the way it is, right? The average person, like myself, is going to stick to Game Pass. I buy a few games a year because Game Pass suits my needs. I don't feel the need to go out and buy the games because I'm paying for it through Game Pass. But that's a byproduct of, having this sort of thing. I used to buy DVD movies and Blu-ray movies. Because of Netflix, I don't buy any of them now. I just watch what I can watch on Blu-ray, on Netflix or on Amazon Prime. And if it's not there, I'll wait for it to come on there. I don't find that need anymore to go and buy Blu-rays or DVDs. It's just not a thing. And that's what a subscription service does. It's a byproduct of it. So I'm not blaming people for this. It's just a byproduct of how we are engineered to go.
And with Xbox putting some of the games on PS5, from what I understand, the majority of them will be coming across at some point, assuming it progresses as Xbox believes it probably will. I think Xbox is in real trouble as a hardware manufacturer. And that was the thing that came out of GDC for me, because I always just thought, I've always been the belief, it's the Game Pass delivery system, it's good, it's got a good UI, it's got a good controller, it's it's if you like Xbox games, it's probably the best way to play them, etc. I thought it would be fine, but then I didn't really factor in that some developers and publishers might just go, I don't, is there any point? And that is when you can lose it. And they're talking about releasing more powerful hardware and next generations of devices, but they need to make sure that that it makes sense for studios to continue to make versions of their games for that system. I know they'll be on PC architecture. It's probably not too much work, but it's that was the other thing I could.
Now, what he's essentially saying there is, yes, Microsoft are saying they're going to release new hardware. We're looking at the handheld, which I think could be huge in Japan, by the way, and help them break through into Japan. So that's I'm really excited for the next generation Xbox console, the next generation handheld console. I think these are going to be absolutely awesome and will help Xbox. But what he's saying here is, it's all good you releasing this hardware, but if no one is buying the hardware, then it's a waste of time, and it's still putting the publishers in a position where, yes, you've got that hardware, but what's the point in developing for it if the market share for you is so small? If you have no European presence, if you have no Far East Asian presence, and you've only got a presence in the US, that is not good enough for third-party publishers in order to invest in Xbox. Now, I'm really hoping Microsoft is going to do something to try and push sales in EU, and, Far East is going to take a bit more time. But they used to have such a strong presence in the EU, in the UK, and to see it completely gone, losing 50% year on year, going down, is crazy. It's crazy. It's like in the EU, no one wants an Xbox. Why? And when we look at the cadence of lineup for games, Xbox has an enormous amount of great games coming out this year. They've got, Game Pass getting Diablo 4. I know it's an older title, but it's still coming to Game Pass. We've got Call of Duty coming day one to Game Pass. We've got Indiana Jones. We've got Hellblade 2. We've got Towerborn. There's loads of good games that are coming to the platform that are only going to be playable on the Xbox ecosystem. And of course, Steam. And I think that's where part of the problem lies, because they're coming day and date, but I'm not even getting into that. The reality is there are gamers out there, millions of gamers out there, who do not want to game on a PC. So those people will always go to a console. Obviously, the whole mood structure has dampened down after the 4 games went. It's really been a massive blow for people. Some people have sold their Xboxes and migrated permanently to PC, so they don't have to deal with the bullshit anymore of whether their console is going to be supported. And Microsoft is not giving anyone any form of reassurance that this isn't going to be the case. They just know how to be silent, they know how to ignore people, and not report on any news. I mean, we've already got Elder Scrolls 6 news coming out again, that it's going to PS5. The fact that that game probably won't be here till 2028, 2029 is another matter. The fact is that news is still coming out, and these publishers hear this. So if we're already talking about some of the biggest games that Microsoft can release is going to go day and date to PlayStation, even if it's not true, Microsoft isn't coming out and denying it. That doesn't give them the confidence that they need to say that Xbox is in this for the long haul. Just because they're releasing hardware doesn't mean that they're in it. They're releasing hardware because America has a shit internet system. They may have like amazing speeds, but they're capped. They're not unmetered like it is in the EU and the UK. I've got unlimited internet, unlimited data. So I can play as much cloud gaming as I want, stream as much Netflix as I want. My bill will never increase. That's not the same in the US. And for that reason alone, they need to release the console out of necessity. You see where this is going? So I want to see Xbox. I want to see Phil Spencer. I want to see Sarah Bond. I want to see Matt Booty. I just want to see someone from Microsoft come out and, show us what it is that Microsoft's doing. Give us the reassurances so we can end these conversations once and for all. And they need to go to these publishers and start saying, look, why do you think we're going out of business? And then give them, well, actually, the fact that they've got no presence in EU and the UK, which is a huge market, by the way. So anyone trying to undermine that is being stupid. It's a huge market. So the fact that these areas are not being monetized properly, they need to fix that and then show these publishers, hey, look, in the last 3 months, this is our growth. Now that we're actually trying and caring. Because at the moment, it looks like they don't care. Not for EU anyway. For America, they're all in. But for the rest of the world, it just looks like they've forgot it exists.
Hearing out of GDC was what the hell is going on with Xbox? Because of course, from an Xbox perspective, it's all about growing the market through its through other platforms and services and stuff like that. It isn't all about their box under the TV. And in fact, the box under the TV is probably a very small part of their business. Well, it is a very small part of their business, but from their partner perspective, it's a key element of their business.
Yeah.
There you go. Right there. That said it all, right? Now, for Microsoft, the console itself is a small part of their business. And this is what all of you have been saying to me, when it comes to the console sales don't matter. They are looking bigger. They are looking PC, cloud, all of this. But a third-party publisher, like I said at the start of the video, doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff. All they care about is the one part that Microsoft doesn't find a key element anymore. And that is the console. Because if the console sells 50 million units, that's 50 million potential customers. If the console sells 20 million units, that's 20 million potential customers. Now I'm just going to eyeball and ballpark it. Let's say, for example, that they're looking at that and saying, right, we estimate a 20% sale uptake in that number. That 20% in 20 million is a lot smaller than 50 million or 100 million. And publishers only care about the Xbox sales. And don't forget, unlike the PS5, where they develop for one console, when it comes to Xbox, not only is the market smaller, but they have to go double effort and develop for a weaker machine with the Series S. So they have to develop for 2 different SKUs and make it parity ensemble. It's a lot of effort for what is now being considered not worth. And this is what I've been afraid of all this time. Yes, the Series S is a really nice machine. It's an affordable way to get people into gaming. But it's created a problem. And that problem now is doubled up when they don't have the market share. Now, if the Xbox had 75 million units sold, none of this conversation would be happening. None whatsoever. But the fact is, they're not in that position. They're not in that state. Instead of 75 million units sold, but even with a weaker, with a cheaper console, I won't say weaker, but with a cheaper entry console for next-gen gaming, even with that, they are still at 25, 27 million. And that's the problem. Right? Because they have to put double the effort in. And if people aren't buying the games, then that creates even a bigger problem. So the margin that they set themselves aside of how many they expect to sell is, when it comes to Xbox, you're looking at maybe a 40% margin they need to sell for them to be happy, whereas on PlayStation, because it's almost double the player base, they need 20%. That's a huge difference. It's easier to sell 20% than 40%. You see where I'm coming from? The maths there is completely wrong. I get it, but I hope you get the principle.
I think that I'll be interested to hopefully speak with Xbox at some point and see what their plan is and what can be done to try and shore that up a bit.
That'd be a really interesting conversation to have. I mean, kind of backing up what you've been hearing at GDC. Like I had a press release over the weekend from an indie studio, essentially like apologising to the Xbox community for not producing. Essentially, this game came out and they mentioned it might be on Xbox, and apparently this game has just come out and it's not on Xbox, and they've said, well, we couldn't do it. We couldn't like it's all a cost, isn't it? Like particularly for smaller studios, like it's a cost, creating a whole other version for a whole other platform, even if that platform is similar to PC or similar architecture. It's still cost and time and energy that goes into that pour. And if you're not convinced you're going to get the return on that, then yeah, as you said, like they're going to focus on PC, PS5. Some studios, particularly indies, might even focus on Switch before Xbox, because like the audience is so small. The audience for Xbox is so small compared to PlayStation and even Nintendo. Like it's going to be really intriguing to see what Xbox does, because as you say, like they're already dropping hints about their next gen console, but you need this one to still have a decent audience.
And this is what I was saying, right? They need to, this generation needs to end on a big note. They need to be pushing Xbox. They need to be selling Xbox, not just in America, Europe, UK, Japan, China, everywhere. They need to be releasing games on a regular cadence, not like we have now where the first quarter has nothing available. I know this sounds bad and people are going to say, but the first 4 games that Microsoft released this year went to PlayStation. Now, obviously, there are reasons for that, but regardless of how you want to put it or sugarcoat it, the first 4 games that they released went to another platform and not to their home console. They could have at least released one game this quarter, but they didn't even do that. So right now, what they need to do is pull up their big boy pants, show the rest of the world that they mean business. They've got amazing games coming this year. 2024 can be a huge year if Microsoft plays it right. They've got a lot of good games, a lot of big games. Avowed, Hellblade, Indiana Jones. Those are just 3 I'm mentioning. You got Call of Duty, Diablo coming to Game Pass. There's a lot here that's going to be huge. And they just need to now drive this home. Because if they don't drive this home and they decide to leave it running like a wet noodle, then the next generation console is going to sell even worse than this one, and that probably could be the final Xbox console to come out. So they need to really deliver this home. The audience is too small. They need to bring that audience back up. And it's all about return of interest, as James is saying here. And if they're not getting that return of interest, then that's the problem. If they can't guarantee it because the audience is too small, especially them being an indie company, so attention to their game is going to be even smaller, well, you need a massive audience in order to be able to try to give yourself a chance. And if it's not there, then don't forget, not only do they have to port it to Xbox, but they have to make 2 versions of the game. a Series S and a Series X. Maybe the games will be exactly the same because it's an indie game. Who knows? Or maybe the Series X version is going to have to be like the PS5 version, where it just has a few bells and whistles. But that means that they're still creating two different versions of the game. One slightly downsampled for the Series S, one not. You know, it could be anything. I don't know what game he's talking about or what company he's talking about, but the reality is these are conversations that I've said will be happening and are happening, and it's sad to see that this is, you know, we're at this stage right now, and Microsoft does not want to be at this stage unless they want to get out of the console market, and I don't believe that they do, not just yet. So hopefully they will turn this around. I'm not thinking this is doom and gloom yet. Microsoft still has ample of time to turn the ship around. And with the 2024 release of, you know, games coming, if they were ever going to turn that ship around, this is the year. If they were ever going to right the wrongs that they did and make it right and start pushing Xbox advertising and pushing Game Pass, this is the year. 2024 is the year because they have a host of games coming for this platform this year. And if that's not going to sell Xbox, nothing will. So this is the year to actually really, really push this and drive it home. And I really think that they can do it. I really do, and I want them to do it because we need Microsoft in the games industry. We need Microsoft to be pushing competition and challenging Sony and keeping Sony on its toes so it doesn't get complacent and doesn't get arrogant like it did with the PS3.
I mean, it's
Before
not,
you can sell another one.
I know it's not their priority, but obviously they are transitioning as a business away from one business to another, and that transition, you know, you don't want to kill off your old business too quickly in favour of the new one. I'm sure they've got a plan. It's Xbox, you know, they've got a lot of staff, a lot of talented developers. But it's interesting. I was watching Michael Pactor's podcast, and he was talking about how it's all about Game Pass for Xbox. Yeah, I actually was hearing that Microsoft's putting a little bit less focus on Game Pass. So,
yeah, because it's not growing. Why isn't it growing? Because people aren't subscribing. Why aren't people subscribing? Because you're putting your games on other platforms like, you know, PC, Steam, and PlayStation, where they don't have Game Pass or they don't need to go through Game Pass. If you made those games only available on PC via Game Pass or the Xbox console, then your Game Pass subscriptions would go higher. It's really that simple, you know. So they've done it to themselves. They diluted their own ecosystem. They diluted their own platform. And now they're complaining that they're not selling enough Game Pass? Well, what did you expect was going to happen? Look, Steam is an amazing platform. It's been around for years. It's got fantastic quality of life pieces of software. And it is just a great platform. It's got so much there that makes it beloved by so many people. Other, you know, launchers like Xbox Game Pass, like Epic Game Store, have a long way to go before they can get anywhere near to the features that Steam offers you and the benefits that Steam offers you. They're a long way away from that. And that's why people continuously go to Steam, because they are loyal. Steam treats them good, they go back. But if they don't have a choice to buy it through Steam, then they're either not going to buy it at all, and you're going to lose that sale, or you're going to push people to pick up Game Pass and get it through there. Or maybe this will give rise to Gabe coming to Microsoft to find ways where they could integrate Game Pass into Steam. I don't know how that would work or in what way that could work, but maybe that would have been the logical step forward next, because Gabe would naturally want those games on his platform. So there's no reason why he wouldn't want to try and negotiate with Microsoft in a way that would work for both companies. Microsoft would continue selling Game Pass, and they would continue making money. So even if they offered like a Steam Game Pass version, where Steam gets 30% of that sale, that is, and only the games that are released on Microsoft First Party would be available on there via that subscription model, that could still work. But like I said, that's a discussion for a whole nother day. But Microsoft now, if that, you know, I don't believe that they're ditching Game Pass. I don't believe that that's a lesser priority, because that is their only priority right now, along with cloud. And they need to make sure that that succeeds.
Who knows? I think they'll tell you it's a bit of everything, and it probably is. So there's a lot of that. I actually felt the news was around GDC was quite positive. Like I know not a lot of it was not a lot of it was GDC necessary.
And that's pretty much the video. So that's my thoughts on this. I know this went on for a little longer than it's a 5-minute clip, and I've managed to hit, about 20-25 minutes. Sorry about that, but I think there's a lot to get through here. 2024 is Microsoft's year. If they want to take it, if they want to drive it home, if they want to, ever succeed properly and compete with Sony, this is their year to do it. And once they build the momentum this year, that momentum can go forward to 2025, and in 2026, when they come to release their new console, everyone will be super hyped to get an Xbox next gen, because they're going to want to play those games. They're going to be invested into the ecosystem. They're going to want to play the Halos, the Call of Duties, the Gears, the Avoweds, and the Starfields, and all of these games, right? The next Indiana Jones, the Blade, everything. There's loads coming. And 2024 is the beginning. And if they want to make a massive statement, now's the time. Now is the point where they go out and make that statement. They go out and make that point and reclaim Europe. Japan can wait. They've already started working on that, and I think the handheld is partly the reason for that. But once the handheld comes out, I think that's going to do really well in the Far East. But for currently in the EU and the UK, they need to do something now and start with the 28th of March, and then move on and really drive it home on the 21st of May. But time will tell, right? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know I didn't put down a comment from the previous video. That is because I'm making this impromptu. As you can see, I've gone back to the setup. It is like 3 a.m. in the morning I'm recording this. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully this will have given you a lot more context to this and a broader explanation. I'm going to be live Tuesday, so we can definitely go through this again and talk about it and have those discussions, and maybe even get some of you onto the air to express your views and get your concerns out, and we can have that discussion. Right, anyway, that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.